Ever heard of a game called Soul Blazer? No? Aw, well, it's a shame, because it's a good game. It's the first of a 3-game series that consists of this, Illusion of Gaia, and Terranigma. Never heard of any of them? Well, perhaps you know the creator, Enix, otherwise known for its Dragon Quest series and the newer Final Fantasies. The story is simple. A king makes a pact with an evil demon named Death Toll to bring every living creature for 1 piece of gold. Seriously? 1 piece of gold for everything that lives? Someone's getting the short end of the bargain here. So gradually, the world's population starts dwindling down to nothing. It's your job to fix this. You play as a servant of a higher power, presumably God. You get sent to 6 different areas to repopulate the world by traveling through various dungeons, defeating creatures, and stepping on the tiles they leave behind. By stepping on these tiles, you either create a new pathway or rescue a creature, whether it be human or not. Before these tiles are stepped on, they act as monster spawners, creating various monsters for you to slay. When the monsters appear, it's simple. You attack them and kill them. Most spawners include multiple monsters, and each one killed nets you various experience points, used to level yourself up for more HP, more attack power, and more defense. Most enemies don't cause a huge challenge, as all of them are pretty predictable, and many times you can defeat them before they even set off an attack. When they spawn, they're invulnerable for a few seconds, but if you can position yourself right at the vulnerability point, they don't have a chance. There's few health power-ups in the game, so knowing how to attack without being hit is crucial, although healing is actually pretty simple. See, when you step on the tiles, if you release a creature, you regain a few HP. You can find herbs that will instantly restore all of your HP if you manage to die, but you need to be actively holding it. If it's sitting in your inventory and you die, but it's not selected, it's not used. You can also only hold one at a time. If you're in a dungeon and find one, you get restored in place of a second herb. Another way of restoring yourself is just to visit your shrine. Just by stepping foot in it, you're completely healed up. So, as you restore the population back to the world, you'll meet a bunch of people and get new abilities. There's 5 souls that are supposedly a heavenly body as well, and they'll join you to assist you. For example, one shows you hidden areas in a dungeon, and another gives you a small bulb of light for dark sections. Although you need to find these guys at some point, it's not always necessary to run directly back to town just to meet up with them. You can come and go in the dungeons at any time. Sometimes you may want to head back due to a puzzle blocking your way, and you may need the assistance of one of the creatures you rescued. Other times you may need an item that an NPC will give you just to make things easier for yourself. Other times, you just may need to head back to enter a different dungeon, or even switch to a new one. The NPCs typically have very little to really tell you, so just plain speaking with them may be a lower priority than clearing the hostile areas. Don't get me wrong though, although backtracking may not be completely necessary all the time, you will need to do it a bit. Sometimes you'll find items that will allow you to fully complete previous areas. For example, in the beginning of the game, you'll find enemies made of metal, but your beginning swords won't damage them at all. It's not until about the 4th city where you finally find a sword that you can take creatures down with. By doing so, you unlock more of the game. So although you don't need to run backwards right away, it's necessary at one point or another. Sounds simple, does it not? Well, it is. It's a great RPG. However, as expected, it does start to get repetitive later on in the game. The game remains at a constant pace of enter dungeon, free NPCs, enter dungeon, free NPCs, fight boss, move to the next area, repeat. Sometimes you'll have to throw in a backstepping interval, but it's the same thing over and over, and by the 4th or 5th stage, you're going to be wishing that there was something else to do. Let me explain your different attacks. Your primary attack is your sword, and you can attack with this in 2 ways. By holding L or R, you'll keep your sword out in front of you in a thrust, and you're able to strafe around, just keeping the sword pointing in one direction. By pressing B, you'll swing in a normal arc. The sword makes an odd swishing sound, and its arc is interesting, as if you get to hit enemies at the end of the swing, it will normally have a larger angle of attack, and you also seem to hit enemies for 2 strikes instead of 1. If you can consistently position yourself to damage your enemies at the end of your swing, you'll make short work of any foe, other than the bosses, which I'll get to shortly. Your other method of attacking is magic. You don't really have any magic points in the game. Instead, you collect round orbs from enemies, called gems, and use those as fuel for magic powers. If you perish, you lose all the gems you had unless you have an item called Strange Bottle equipped. Not so sure what makes it so strange, but I never really used it, as my magic uses were limited. Many attacks just seem to be too slow to be of any use, and the light arrow you get at the beginning is strong enough to take out most enemies quickly for the majority of the game. Near the end of the game, you obtain the Phoenix magic, which is necessary to defeat the final boss. but it eats up 2 gems per use. So the solution? You find all 8 emblems and trade it in for a magic bell. While this is equipped, all spells cost 0 gems. It makes finishing the game a cakewalk. Another thing that keeps the game from being completely boring near the end is the level designs. First off, the graphics are crisp and detailed, especially for the small sprites that are contained in the game. The water especially looks good, and about as realistic as you can get on the SNES. Some of the backgrounds of the game, most notably the Aurora Borealis in the ice level and the final stage, World of Evil. As I said, the level design is notable because you don't really know what you're going to end up in next. First, you start in a basic underwater mine, and then after you get sucked into a painting. Other stages that are just odd are a model of a town and a supposed basement of a lab. Now, I don't understand how this massive lab fits under the house, but on the map screen it looks to be in a desert, so I guess it's legit. One of my biggest gripes about the game? The controls. They're easy, don't get me wrong. It works great. Just one teeny tiny little problem. You can't move diagonally. You can move in the basic 4 directions, but you can't in any way, shape, or form move diagonally, which can be brutally frustrating. For example, this mountainside, you have snowballs that are somehow able to follow you around, dealing constant damage. The only way to destroy them is to roll them into a rock, but only being able to move in each cardinal direction makes it much more difficult than it really needs to be. Although the main enemies don't pose much of a challenge, the bosses aren't too much harder. All of them have distinct patterns that are easily followed and makes them very easy to defeat. Another deceiving thing is that you can defeat the bosses easier by not swinging your sword, but instead using the thrust. It seems to do less damage, but at a faster interval. The only boss that's really a bit difficult is the flying bird in the 6th level, but even once you figure him out, he's easy. And if you have an herb on you, it makes it that much easier. So what happens near the end of the game? The hero finds a scientist who built the machine to bridge the gap between the world of evil and the normal world. You find out that he was forced to do it by the king, but the scientist sacrifices himself to destroy a few enemy soldiers and save you and his daughter. The hero saves the king, who regrets what he did. You then find the soul blade and soul armor, obtain the phoenix magic, and go destroy Death Toll. Your boss steals the world of evil, which apparently he's able to do but didn't feel like doing it in the first place. The hero then falls in love with the scientist's daughter and chooses to be human at the penalty of amnesia to be with her. Aw, how sweet. Soul Blazer isn't a bad game. It's pretty original in design, but the constant repeating of tasks makes the game a bit more mundane near the end. If you need something new to play, or never played an action RPG and want an easy one to begin with, this is the game for you. Final score? 8 out of 10. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.